Okay, I'm coming. I just had to grab my drink really quick. Hold on. Here we are. I love this one.
It's pretty good, right?
It is. It's great. Oh my God. Oh, the teeth. It's perfect.
Thanks.
I think this is like the best part of my every week.
I'm glad. Hello, everyone. Welcome back.
Hi.
Your weekly reminder on masks, wearing them. So this is a mask. Governor Cuomo eloquently said it a couple weeks ago. This is a mask. This is a chin guard. No one's telling you to wear a chin guard.
No.
Wear a mask. And if everybody does this for like 2 months, we would be in a much different position than we are currently.
We would. It's seriously like wearing a jockstrap and like only putting the balls in it.
Like that.
Yeah, pretty much like that. You wouldn't. You got to protect all of it.
Also, that mask, that Freddy Krueger mask, that literally was in the Halloween bin in the garage, and it smells and feels like it was in the garage for a very long period of time.
That had to be nice in there.
It was something. It was. Yeah.
Oh God, I'm so happy to see you.
You too. Yeah.
So,
what are we doing this week?
I just wanted to say welcome back to this week's episode. We just wanted to say thank you to all of those who have liked, shared, and followed us on social media. It's been actually really nice to read different views from both sides and be able to engage in constructive dialogue. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Honestly, you had a friend who commented on one of the videos that basically literally said, like, I don't agree with anything that you guys say.
Yes.
But I appreciate you saying it. And that's really cool, And
yeah, right.
and I've had people that I'm friends with that have commented, and they're like, hey, Dan, I thought you used to view politics this way. And I'm like, oh, I did, but this is why I don't anymore. And here we are. And it's a really good conversation, and we welcome all of those, provided everybody stays civil and factual and all of those things.
Yes, yeah. I love it.
So I think this week we are just gonna, given current events, we're gonna just cover the really shitty people that Donald Trump surrounds himself with. So we do a regular Trump Swamp Spotlight. This is the entire spotlight. So we're just going to cover a couple of folks, 2 in detail, and we'll mention a few along the way that we might cover in greater detail later. But there have just been some interesting people and some very corrupt things that Donald Trump has been doing to protect himself by also protecting these people. And so, yeah, so this episode is basically just covering Trump's swampy, scummy people. One of which we heard about on Friday, Roger Stone. Well, we heard about him way, way before this, but made news Friday night because Donald Trump seems to think that there isn't a 24-hour news cycle. And so if you just drop or do something on a Friday night, nobody's going to hear about it.
We are listening. We all hear about it.
So Megan sent me this article from the author his name is Steve Harper, and he has spent years untangling the strands of money and influence and politics that go into Donald Trump's campaign and presidency and all of the fraudulence that goes in there. And he posted an article on July 11th. And the author's note, so he literally starts with saying, Roger Stone is still a convicted felon. Trump just let him off the hook. So
true.
Yeah. And so we figured, we would just do a quick tour. Who is Roger Stone? Well, he's kind of a weirdo. And that's an understatement. And he's been a Republican operative since the 70s. And he has a very random, unhealthy obsession with Richard Nixon. So much so that he has a tattoo of Nixon like on his back between his shoulder blades, which I'm sure is going to be a very awkward conversation in the showers in prison. And his new boyfriends are probably going to ask about that as they're... Anyway. Oh, but wait. He's not going to prison because Trump literally commuted his sentence. So he won't be doing any jail time. More on that in a few. Thank God for that tattoo. Yeah. So anywho, in the 80s, Stone co-founded a lobbying company with Paul Manafort of all people. We can talk about him later. You want to talk about Russia connections. So this lobbying company, among other corrupt individuals, represented dictators across the globe in terms of like genocide and getting their political campaigns moving and approved and accepted by people who then were killed by those same dictators. So really a stellar individual.
Yeah.
Which is not surprising that he now wants to surround himself with the wannabe dictator that is Donald Trump. And so Stone helped Donald Trump, didn't really help, during Trump's 2000 campaign. And Trump obviously lost that and then had to wait 16 years to try it again, and he won.
Gee, I wonder how he won.
Mm-hmm. And so Stone is kind of like on again, off again with Trump, which also sounds like most of Trump's wives. And so when Trump was asked about like Stone, his response was, well, Roger is a stone cold loser. He always tries to take credit for things that he never did. Which Nancy Pelosi famously said that Donald Trump loves to project. So when he says things about other people, he's probably just talking about himself. And so the point of taking credit for things that he never did really rings true.
Like, yep, that's familiar.
Yeah. So it calls to question, what else is Donald Trump doing that Stone did or didn't do? And I shudder at the thought of any tattoo that Donald Trump has. And it's,
Oh,
yeah.
God. Who do you think's on his back? Do you think it William Barr, Putin?
I would say Putin, most likely. Or Lindsey Graham, who knows? It depends on how drunk they got.
Lady G?
Yeah, Lady G. Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's him like laying sideways, like?
It might be like the Titanic, where it's like, yeah. Which I just watched the other day.
Oh God, I love that movie.
Anyway, on that note, before we dive into really who Roger Stone is, let's just take a quick view of how he reacts under pressure when he was being interrogated during a trial.
Ooh, I like this.
I'm not going to discuss the criminal case. If you want to keep insulting me, this will be over. You can run back to the judge like a little bitch.
I'm doing what?
If you want to keep insulting me, I will just end this and you go running back to the judge.
Did you just call me a bitch?
You're acting like one. This proves nothing.
That's what you told Mueller, right? You have nothing.
Continue. Not going to be badgered by this.
You're not badgered.
Oh, yes, I am. Yes, I am. You could fool me.
You can see his hands shaking, his lips quivering. It's just a completely different image to the one we're used to seeing.
Yes, please do. I'd like to speak to the judge myself about this.
Better do it quick.
Before you're disbarred.
Stop.
Mr. Klain,
no further questions. Is concluded for now, subject to my going back and moving the court to produce all the documents that we requested.
Subject to your still being admitted.
So wow, very stable genius there, friends.
He was sweating. He was moving all over the place. He was very uncomfortable.
Jesus. So with that prelude, let's go into some of this here. So Harper, in his article, he goes through sort of a timeline of Stone's involvement in Trump's general corruption. So here we go with the timelines. I apologize in advance. I'll keep you all entertained as best I can. But ultimately, it shows that Donald Trump commuted Stone's sentence basically just to save Donald Trump. So back in 2017, when everybody was starting to be held accountable for the shit show that was the Trump campaign, Roger Stone lied to the House Intelligence Committee, and then he managed to threaten a witness who was going to expose him. After all of this, a jury deliberated for about 7 hours or so, and then decided to convict him on 7 counts, some of which were lying to Congress, obstruction of justice, witness tampering, what have you.
Name it.
And then career prosecutors in the Justice Department recommended a prison sentence of 7 to 9 years. Once Trump got wind of this, he decided to whine publicly, which, you know, what privileged child does, you know, takes to Twitter and cries and whines and things of that sort. And then he enlisted Attorney General William Barr to help with things behind the scenes, which we talked about Bill Barr, and that's not surprising that he was helping behind the scenes.
Mm.
So let's figure out what got us here, right? So the Trump campaign says that they fired Roger Stone on August 6th, and this is in 2015. Stone said he quit, but we can't believe anybody at this point.
Right. One quit, one's fired. What is it?
Right. So, but what was true was that Stone still was very involved in the campaign through 2016. So whether or not he wasn't employed or not, or whether he was getting paid through Russian back channels, who knows?
Some channel.
Yeah. So in June of 2016, the DNC announces that its computer system was hacked. And on that same day, Stone randomly calls Trump. Now, mind you, he was either fired or he quit in 2015, but in June of 2016, he still feels the need to call Trump for that. So that July, Stone calls Trump again and says that he spoke to WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, who is currently at an embassy in London, and basically says, within the next couple of days, expect a dump, which using Trump and dump in the same sentence.
It goes together.
It's, expect a dump of emails that would damage Hillary Clinton's campaign in the next few days. To which Trump responds, wouldn't that be great? Because he was desperate for anything at that point.
Yeah.
And so sure enough, days after that, WikiLeaks releases 20,000 emails that were either sent to or received by Democratic Party officials. A few days after that, Paul Manafort instructs Rick Gates, who is another swamp dweller,
Yes.
to contact Stone again to basically say, hey, when are we going to get more information that's damaging to Hillary Clinton? And so later that month, Trump, Gates, 2 Secret Service agents are on their way to LaGuardia Airport, and Stone calls Trump to basically say, hey, more info is coming. And then the campaign basically starts planning their press strategy, communications campaign, and all of these messages based on WikiLeaks' possible release of Clinton's emails. So in August, you following, Stone emails Steve Bannon, which is another petulant individual,
Yeah.
who at that time was about to be named Trump's campaign CEO. So, I mean, I guess he fit all the qualifications of being a supremacist, sad disgrace of a human being. And Stone says, time is running out, he can still win, but if we're going to do it, it's not going to be pretty. So then Stone, in October, messages a Trump advisor basically saying, hey, spoke to a friend in London. WikiLeaks, Julian Assange in that
Right.
embassy, yeah. The payload is coming. Now, what happened in that same month was this was when that Access Hollywood video was coming out, where Trump basically said, you know, you can grab a woman by the you know what, and because he's so famous, they'll just let you do that, which is not, no. Also, what a sad human being, a disgraceful, a disgusting human being.
It's just locker room talk, though. Boys will be boys. You don't have to look at it that deep.
That's cute when you're trying to deflect.
Yeah.
So Roger Stone got this news that this video was going to essentially drop, and he sends a message basically saying, if you can get Assange to start dropping, tell him to start dumping, which again, dumping, trumping. So almost immediately, like literally 30 minutes or an hour after this Access Hollywood video drops, which really should have been the end of the Trump campaign,
Right.
aside from the fact that he mocked a disabled reporter in a very distasteful fashion, that again even wasn't the last straw. But literally 30 minutes to an hour after this Access Hollywood video drops or dumps, WikiLeaks literally starts publishing all of the stolen emails from the Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman, John Podesta.
They're just red flags everywhere, and everybody's like, no, I don't see that red flag. Let's move that out of the way.
And then after that, Steve Bannon literally texts Roger Stone and just basically says, well done. So now we're in 2018, November of 2018. And this is during the Mueller investigation, which again, I know trigger word, everyone hates Mueller.
Mueller, can't say that word.
He was a fucking FBI director and a Republican. You all loved him until he came after your false president prodigy.
Like whatever the fuck he is.
Oh, I don't, yeah. And literally Trump says he has no recollection of discussing WikiLeaks with Roger Stone between June 1st, 2016 and November 8, 2016. Meanwhile, Roger Stone says that they spoke like on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
The exact same time period. So the trial goes on, and around February 10th of 2018, based on all the federal sentencing guidelines, career prosecutors, they recommend that Stone, as I said before, serve 7 to 9 years. And again, Trump thought that was ridiculous. He calls on Bill Barr. They publish a memorandum, which in the meantime, 4 of the prosecutors resign because they want to maintain some type of integrity with their career.
Right.
And then Trump congratulates Barr for stepping in and taking charge of the situation.
For anybody to sit there and congratulate Barr, just, I mean, it's like an eye roll.
Which we talked about Barr, and so this is not surprising. Like he helped Reagan win, the presidency, and then helped George H.W. Bush escape any scrutiny or jail time because of that.
And is anybody like following? Like people really have to follow our Swamp Spotlight because it literally paints this giant picture. It just keeps going and how it's all connected.
That we don't plan anything, but there is a logical progression of what we're talking about. So contrary to popular belief, we know what we're talking about.
Sort of.
So I'll wrap up with this. On July 9th, Bill Barr declares that Roger Stone's prosecution was righteous. July 10th, after learning that Stone appealed to get out of prison time, that was denied. And he told a reporter by the name of Howard Feynman that, this is Stone speaking, I had 29 or 30 conversations with Trump during the campaign period. He knows I was under enormous pressure to turn on him. It would have eased my situation considerably, but I didn't. They wanted me to play Judas. I refused. Later that day, after this interview became public, Trump commutes Stone's sentence and basically says you're free. So you don't have to serve any of your terms in prison.
Oh my God. So it's pretty much, he's right there admitting it, that I have all this information and didn't turn. And
so it's kind of like, hey, bail, like, I've got it. What are you going to do? Commute, not pardon. He's still a felon, not pardoned, just commuted. So basically Trump commuted a sentence of a felon to help Trump. Which again, Downey, you claim to be innocent. You're acting really guilty.
Jeez.
So on that, I digress. And maybe you can help. We'll cover people who are less corrupt than what I just said.
You know, I'd honestly like to say like less corrupt, fine, or less swampy. But my topic goes into a little bit, I mean, it's on a much more serious note. So it won't be as funny, this segment, when we're talking about Ghislaine Maxwell. I think she's the swampiest of the swamp. So Ghislaine, for those of you who do not know, she was the girlfriend, also madam, and was very close with Jeffrey Epstein. Who did not kill himself. No, he did not. No. Let's just keep that trending. So Ghislaine Maxwell, she came into pretty much a spotlight in 1991. So her father was found dead floating in the Atlantic Ocean. And, she was from France and then the UK. Her family was very well known. And then he was found dead. And that's when she left in 91 to come over to New York. And right when she came into New York, that's where her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, kind of came into the spotlight. And he was known to bring her around and introduce her to all these other socialites. And that's where she became known as the Good Times Ghislaine. So she earned this nickname hanging out with all these socialites.
Mm-hmm.
So from 91 on, this is when Ghislaine Maxwell, she met Epstein. People said that they had a romantic relationship, which it went back and forth. They said that it was romantic. Then, others said that she was just an assistant to him. It was very unclear. And then others, actually Jeffrey Epstein just turned around and said, no, she was just his best friend, which probably because she was too old for him, because we all know what he was into. So during this time, Maxwell introduced Epstein to Prince Andrew. So Prince Andrew, obviously from the UK, all ties into things that are coming to light now. So going back to 1994 to 97, Maxwell is said to have turned madam, which we all know she was a pimp, for Epstein by identifying and grooming young girls, which Virginia Roberts, she was actually a woman who claimed to have had, she was actually Jeffrey Epstein's teenage sex slave, in other terms, because she said that she was recruited by Maxwell to give Epstein massages when she was just 15. So that is complete human trafficking there. Roberts also claims that she was forced to have sex with Prince Andrews, who he has just categorically denied ever happening. And Roberts also alleged in court documents that Maxwell, she was the actual one that had sex with underage girls virtually every day as well. So it wasn't just Epstein. Maxwell was actually engaging in this. She said that their entire lives actually revolved around sex with underage girls. And then in 2000, Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell, they were both on holiday, what they call it, with Epstein at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago club in Palm Beach, Florida. So there was another connection to Donald Trump, which a lot of people say that, Trump eventually barred Epstein from coming to his resort. And that did happen eventually. But that was after already that there was a girl that worked at the resort that was already involved in these sexual encounters with these men. And then when it was coming to light, he was barred from it. So give him a pass on that. In 2002, Virginia Roberts, that's when she was groomed by Epstein. She claims she was forced to have sex with Andrew 3 times in 2001, with the first encounter allegedly taking place in Maxwell's London townhouse. And then Roberts also claims to have had sex with Andrew on 2 or more occasions at Epstein's New York home, and then at an actual orgy that was going on his private island in the Caribbean. And then she actually didn't go public with all of these allegations until 2010. And you know how many people say, well, she waited all this time to come forward. And that's the first thing that they do is shame you. Well, why didn't you come out when it first happened? It's you don't get to attack somebody.
You're villainized when you come out at first. And so people are scared. And we live in a society where the rapists are believed over the victims or survivors, we would say. I would say Brett Kavanaugh is a perfect example of that.
Oh God, absolutely. Absolutely.
And has a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court.
And I'm all about you're innocent until proven guilty, but don't turn that into taking somebody who is accused of something and putting him on this pedestal and telling everybody all the good things that he's done in his life, and then taking a victim survivor and turning them around and saying, well, what did you do to make this happen?
Well, and I don't, real quick, it's when, if somebody is sexually assaulted or raped, the question is, well, what were you wearing? It's what's the fucking matter?
Yeah.
The question is, what was going through that person's mind that assaulted that person?
Absolutely.
You couldn't control yourself enough as a human being to not assault that person. It doesn't matter what someone's wearing.
No.
It's you. I digress. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. But when you have this culture now these days of, well, you could say and do whatever, it's allowed. It's, oh, they're just goofing around. you're opening the door for all of this. And again, it's nothing but victim shaming. 2005 is actually when the police received their first complaint about Epstein for sexual abuse of minors, and there was an early FBI investigation that had actually identified around 40 victims for, underage girls, 40 victims, which is absolutely mind-blowing. 2008, U.S. prosecutors bring just one charge. Out of all of this, they only brought one charge of soliciting prostitution from an underage girl. And just for that, he only served 13 months out of an 18-month prison sentence after he secretly negotiated a plea deal behind the actual victims' backs. They didn't even know this was going to happen, and he went in. Alexander Acosta, we're coming for you soon. He literally did this plea deal and completely got off scot-free. He actually had work release too, to where he got to leave prison every day. So this is like a little vacation for him. It was a slap on the wrist, and he got to go back to doing exactly what he was doing. So it takes us on to our next date in the timeline, 2015 to 2017. Maxwell's name is actually starting to pop up. And this is when she starts to get noticed a lot, because her name's being brought into like civil cases that were brought by Epstein's victims. So the first is filed by Virginia Roberts, who accuses Maxwell of recruiting her in 1999 when she was still underage, and she was groomed as a sex slave for Epstein. And then you have another female victim. She was 21 at the time. She claimed that she was approached by Maxwell on her college campus to do like a job for answering phones, like all of these things. And then she claims that she was later groped by Prince Andrew at Epstein's New York mansion in 2001. Then you had another female victim, Maria Farmer, and she has said that Maxwell at an art show in 1995 claimed that both Maxwell and Epstein started to sexually assault her just months later. So they, contacted her then and then eventually groomed her and brought her into this. So it wasn't until 2016 is where Maxwell started to finally distance herself from Epstein, because this is when everything was coming into light again, after his little plea deal and everything, because he continued to do what he was going to do. Because, if you got a slap on the wrist and was let out, why would you not continue your crimes? So
kind of like if you were impeached but not removed from office, you're going to continue to do the same thing,
right?
You're doing.
It's like I was impeached, but no, I'm still here, so I'm going to still do whatever I can to get away with whatever I can.
Mm-hmm.
So 2019, this is when Epstein was finally arrested at a New Jersey airport, and this was July of 2019. And he was arrested on sex trafficking charges, and he was held at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York, which he was supposed to be watched, and he was found dead in a cell on August 10th, where he did not kill himself. So I don't for 1 second, and I will never believe that.
I would say he was hung. I wouldn't say it was by himself.
Right.
Yeah. And that's why we need to keep an eye on Miss Maxwell.
So around the same time, this is January 2020. This is after Epstein did not kill himself. Maxwell, she was finally arrested in Bradford, New Hampshire by the FBI. Thank God for July 2nd. And I remember the FBI New York Assistant Director, William Sweeney, he had said that she had slithered away to a gorgeous property in New Hampshire, continuing to live a life of privilege while her victims live with the trauma inflicted upon them for years. And it just goes to show she just still thought she was untouchable and just going off living her life. And you have these victims that are trying to get justice. And you have so many people that are just sick and just covering it up. So Maxwell, she faces charges of conspiracy to entice minors to travel to engage in illegal sex, and enticement of a minor to travel to engage in illegal sex, conspiracy to transport minors with intent to engage in criminal sexual activity, and transportation of a minor with intent to engage in criminal sexual activity. So the prosecutor has also said that Maxwell's presence as an actual adult female helped these victims be at ease after she groomed them, and then she was present when these things were going on so that they felt more comfortable rather than to just be in a room with a man, that she was literally there just partaking in it and making it easier for them to become victims.
Right.
And there's so many people that were, mostly high profile, rich, influential men that have been sitting there.
Donald Trump.
Yeah. And then you have people that are going to sit there and defend some of them and then condemn the other ones. And it's like, no, every single person involved in this should be outed and held accountable for their actions. You're just as guilty. So whether you partook in it or you knew about it, you're just as guilty if you didn't do anything. I was having a conversation with a friend, and she had said, well, Bill Clinton was a frequent guest at Epstein's Island. And she believes that Bill Clinton was like this main abuser of these underage girls. And in the same sentence, she had said, but she doesn't believe Donald Trump knew anything about it, what was going on. And she thinks people just want to accuse him of raping like young girls. And it's like, well, first off, take your complete political alignment like off the table. Because when it comes Republican, Democrat, independent, anti-government, whatever, it shouldn't have any place in this. Every person who knew should be held accountable, no matter what side you're on.
Well, yeah, and it's human decency, really.
Yeah.
So regardless of political party, sure. Bill Clinton, yes, made very questionable decisions
Really?
where we would question his integrity in certain facets of his life. And if he had any involvement in this, yeah, investigate, prosecute, go for it.
Right.
Anybody who suggests that Donald Trump had no part in this, I just have to laugh at, because
It's completely laughable.
he literally paid a porn star $130,000 while he was married to hide the affair, and that's only one that we know about. And so I have no doubts that he is involved in all of this and had done whatever ungodly things. And if that's the case too, investigate and prosecute to the fullest extent of the law.
Yeah.
Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, investigate, prosecute, fullest extent of the law. Prince Andrew, investigate, prosecute, but bring everybody who
responsible
to light.
Yes, absolutely. Every single person.
But Donald Trump definitely, I think, is involved. Fox News literally made it a point to crop him out of all photos with Epstein and Maxwell, and then they had to come back and apologize for doing that once they were called out, because they were trying to maintain some type of journalistic integrity, which they didn't have to begin with. But it's, it's
absolutely, like you said, it's laughable. To say that Clinton is guilty but not Trump, it's fucking mind blowing. If you're going to point the finger one way, point it both ways. They need to be both held to the same exact standards, because both had a relationship with Epstein. Both were in Epstein's little black book. Both were on his island. So yeah, leave your political party out of it and point the finger one way, point it both ways.
Yeah.
Her next line in this conversation, I remember she said, well, Trump is the only president that has ever done anything about human trafficking. And haven't you watched all of these videos, like with the conspiracy theories going on? And I was like, whoa, first off, if you've done any research and if you have been involved in human trafficking and not just as a little hobby recently, then you would know that Trump is not the only administration. There have actually been 3 administrations that have been involved with human trafficking, going back to George W. Bush, Barack Obama, and Trump's administration. So don't sit there and say, well, Trump's the only one. Well, clearly you didn't do your research on your little hobby that you just picked up. Follow it all along. Get fully involved or stay out of it.
Right.
And the administrations, by pointing out who has been involved, doesn't mean shit to these allegations that are at hand now. It doesn't really relate to it, because anybody who has worked with survivors or have worked with abusers, I have, anybody that has been around these people know that the first thing when an abuser is abusing, their victim, they're not out in public saying, oh yeah, I'm an abuser and, you know, advocating for that. They're the first ones to say like, no, I'm completely against that. You're going to bring the attention away from yourself. Not saying that that's what Trump was doing, but don't use that as an argument because it doesn't hold any water.
Right.
You know, he could say, hey, I'm a scumbag, so I can't sign anything that will go against my little sick, twisted side business that I have going on, engaging in sexual acts with minors. Like, no, an abuser will stand against it in public and then continue to do it in private. So again, if you've been around it and actually have any sense and have worked with victims and been around abusers, you know that. So that's another part that you can throw that out of your fucking arguments. And then second, as soon as she actually mentioned conspiracy theories, I was like, that's when this entire conversation just needs to be done, because it's like, let's just look at the facts and hold everyone involved accountable. You know, stop playing these political games, stop playing these sides, stop going Democrat and Republican. When it comes to this is a serious topic. It has nothing to do with politics. And then to say something about, oh, well, one is just locker room talk, and he didn't do that much, and he distanced himself. No, wait until the facts come aboard. And like we said, any person from any side that is involved needs to be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. I don't care who it is. From top to bottom, side to side, it doesn't matter. And everybody needs to stop turning it political and having this argument on it. This is one topic that will get me fired up. And again, for somebody to have these opinions that is just a recent, oh yeah, I started looking into human trafficking and I started looking into sexual abuse. No, you live it, you learn it, you help people, you go through it. And until you go through those things and deal with people, and get involved and volunteer and hear stories and be connected to people that have been through this, keep your fucking opinions to yourself.
Yeah.
This is about victims and survivors. Mm-hmm. This is not about a political party. This is not about anything else other than finding the people who are accountable for it, which I do not have faith that most of these people will even be outed. I really don't.
No.
I don't think our government and other governments are going to allow this to happen. I think we're going to get a tidbit here and there of who it is. And I think it's a sad situation that this day and age that we're still going through this.
Right.
And until enough people actually get involved and leave their personal, political parties like out of it, things aren't going to change.
Hopefully November changes things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we could then add another administration that's going to do something for human trafficking, because it wasn't just one.
Right. Thanks again. Thanks for having the Politini with us. And cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.
Hey!